Okay, good evening, learners. I hope you are fine. Today we are talking on very important topic, that is nutrition and nutritional health. In our previous sessions, we talked about health and universal health coverage, and this is the topic which concerns all of us. That what is nutrition, how does it vary, and what how does it help towards achieving the goals of sustainable development, and how we can improve ourselves with respect to getting good nutrition and all. So let us begin with today's session. What is nutrition? If somebody asks us that what is nutrition, so don't always confuse that nutrition is something like eating only green vegetable is nutrition, or having good food or costly fruits, that is the nutrition. But nutrition is something much above eating, I should say. It's not just about eating right, but it is also about, maintaining your safety, maintaining your hygiene standards, sanitation, everything under the whole, uh, you can say, canvas of nutrition. There are a lot many things, and several factors affect the nutrition. What I eat, what you eat, and how does it help me towards growing physically, mentally, and how does it help me in improving my productivity. It has a lot of factors acting on it. So it is said that it is science of food and relationship with health. Of course, it is science of food. Food is uh, food is many things are food. You know what we are eating. It's not just the fruits or the vegetables what we are consuming, but also how that food is grown. From where does it come to us? Who grows it? How it is distributed. All the factors associated with the food, the science of that food items, and its relationship with health. How does it affect our health? In a positive manner, in a negative manner? It contributes towards our well-being. So this is the nutrition, and it is very rightly said that nutrition is double-edged sword. Why do we say it? Because not only having less nutrition, that is undernutrition, is a problem, but in several countries, and the so-called, you can say, high economic countries, we are facing that even having high nutrition, uh, which we call it as overnutrition, that is also a problem. So eating or consuming less nutritious diet is prevalent among the poor sections of the society, and we are struggling that why people don't have enough to eat, why people don't have enough constituents of food. That is a problem which leads to several types of the diseases. But on the other hand, we have another class of consumers who are eating more than what is required, and therefore they have the problem of overnutrition in their bodies. And we know the problem of obesity, the lifestyle based diseases, hypertension, and so on and so forth. So how do you understand it? How do we know that what kind of nutrition is good for us? How do we keep a balance between the different, you can say, nutrients which are required by the body, and how do we ensure that good nutrition is available to all the communities across the country? There is no intergenerational and intragenerational variations between the consumption of the nutritious food. So, therefore, it is very important for you to understand that nutrition, the way you take it up, has lot many things under it. So, how nutritious the food is grown if it is not distributed properly, if it is not cooked properly, I should say, and if it is not eaten in the right manner, that will constitute the problem. So, what is good nutrition? If I say that too less is a problem, too much is a problem, then what is good nutrition according to the sciences of nutritional sciences? People, they explain, We know it from the very beginning that yes, we eating good food, eating green vegetables, eating fiber in our diets, having some dairy component in our diets, that is very essential. But good nutrition and balanced diet, they go hand in hand. Good nutrition will come from the diet which is a balanced diet. And you know very well, learners, what is a balanced diet that has a good and equal proportion of the different macronutrients and the micronutrients which your body needs. So, on the basis of the age, the nutritional requirement varies. The nutritional requirement of an infant is different, of an adolescent is different, of an elderly is different. You are well versed with this. So, accordingly, we have to feed our population. And in this, it is very interesting to know that looking at the demographics of our country, how the population is growing and different age structures of the population which we are having, have we made any attempt in this direction to see that what we are growing, what we are producing in our country is best suited according to the coming age structures which will be having in our country? In a more simple language, we can say that does our food planning in any way encompass that what will be the requirement of different age groups of the population in our country, and will we be able to meet the same? You There is no need to explain this, that how the nutritional requirement of different age group varies, of infants, of toddlers, of school going children, and of the people who are in the working age groups, then their elderly people, because on the basis of your age, your body requires different nutrients at different passages of time. Similarly, there is a vast difference in the nutritional requirement across gender. The amount of energy and the labor and the work done, and also because of the differences in the you can say biophysical activity of the males and females, the nutritional requirement of the male and female also differ greatly, because of their genetic makeup, because of their bodily structures, because of their metabolism, and because of their physical and the mental you can say makeup. The different type of nutrients are required. We know this, there are a lot of women in India who are anemic, they have iron deficiency. So but we have made no attempt, and no families in India look into this, that this is the this is the gender biased nutritional food. Have we seen anywhere the different types of food and the different nutrients in our families? Are we catering to different age groups differently? Are we catering to different genders differently? And similarly, there is a difference in the work type and nutritional requirement. The people who do a physical work more, they require more of carbs in their diets. People who do a lot of mental work, they have a different type of the nutrient requirements. So it is very cumbersome, and it is very confusing to decide that what is good nutrition, because a good nutrition for me may not be working for a person who does lot of physical work. A good nutrition for X may not be a good nutrition for the Y. So it needs a lot of you can say exercise and lot of experiences to come to a conclusion that this is a good nutrition. And so there can be no you can say a roadmap, there can be no checklist that this should be there in your diet to compromise, that this is the good nutrition for this person and this is prescribed in such a way. So therefore you have to be a very having a critical approach regarding nutrition and nutritional health of the individuals. And therefore we have to be very categorically looking into the different, and we will be looking into this at how artificial intelligence in the coming times will give you personalized uh, dietary plans, and personalized nutritional requirements will be met in the future. So we know that why do we need such type of nutrition for our health? for our economic development, for our avenues for education and livelihood. So first and foremost requirement of the nutrition, because it is considered to be the backbone of health. We always say that nutrition and good health go hand in hand. The well-being of a person depends upon good nutrition. So the one of the most importance of good nutrition and eating right and eating good is health of an individuals. And in the present times we know that how important it is to remain healthy with the help of the nutritious food and the nutritious diet. So with health comes the potential to work better. With health comes that you are more productive in your respective work, and ultimately it has been seen that there is always a possibility of increase in GDP if the nutritional requirements of the people in our country are met. It helps in the economic development because people are less falling sick when they are having a nutritious food, when they are having nutrients, they are able to work better, they are able to contribute productively towards their workplace, and therefore overall it helps in economic development of the country. And therefore if you look at the children, if they are well fed, if they are having a good diet, they have less chances of missing out the school. So avenues for education are more, livelihood opportunities are more, and all these things. Therefore we always say that there is always there's a close linkages between what we eat and how we work. So that is, it's clear from this thing that nutrition is not just for your body, but it is also for your mind, it is also for your economy. It brings you out of the poverty, it increases the standard of living of the people. But the problem is that how do we start to giving people nutritious food when we have already poverty in place? So they are the people, or we can say we ourselves are we are actually trapped in this vicious circle where we don't have a nutritious food, therefore we are poor, and we are poor, therefore we do not have access to the good quality nutritious food. So we in this session actually we are just touching at various angles, and how can we cut those uh, barriers which do not allow our communities and our people to get access to good food. Because food is not a luxury, food is our civilization, it defines us. So we have to look into how do we eat and how does our food habits have changed during last decades. So this is just to explain you that what are the types of the nutrients. The carbohydrates, there are micronutrients and the macronutrients. So we very well know that carbs are required because they give us instant energy. Fats, proteins, vitamins are water soluble and fat soluble vitamins, minerals, roughage, and water. So, what are water soluble and fat soluble vitamins? Just to explain you that vitamin B and C, that is different forms of B1, B2, B3, B12. They are water soluble and C. And water soluble vitamins are, as the name indicates, they are soluble in water. So we need to take them regularly because they get flushed out easily. They are not deposited in our body. But on the other hand, the fat soluble vitamins are those vitamins which are absorbed uh, by our body. They get deposited in the different organs. The rest of the vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, they are the fat soluble vitamins. So these are the commonest of the all nutrients which a human body needs for proper functioning, for proper living, and for maintaining a healthy living, you can say. So our basic food items comprising of chapati, rice, pulses, vegetables, fruits, they give us inputs in the form of different types of nutrients. This is the categories of the nutrients which we have. But in our previous slides, we have seen that how the the type of the nutrients varies with respect to age, with respect to gender, with respect to the type of work which we are doing. So there is a class which requires more carbohydrates. There are children who are in the growing age, they require more proteins in their diets. There are certain sections, for example, the women particularly who are pregnant women, lactating women, they require more of the minerals, vitamins, etc. in their diets. And you'll be surprised that India, if we see, we suffer from several nutritious nutrient deficiency diseases. Most of the people, because we do not have access to food, we do not have access to good quality food which comprises of all the nutrients. So we have to see that if we are looking into nutrition science, this is a science actually, and this comprises of the different types of nutrients. Here I would just like to draw your attention towards the fact that a, a simple aspect such as nutrition, or our food, our diet, which we call it in a normal language, it it has a life science nutrition. When we say that, means it is exploring the biochemical part of the food that we are eating. So when I say that, what kind of nutrition are you giving to your family, that means I have categorically seen that yes, I am giving carbohydrates, the proteins are this much, the fats are this much vitamins, this much minerals. So classifying the nutrients or the nutrition on the basis of the biochemical characteristics, that is the life science nutrition. That is one of the aspect of nutrition science. Another aspect is social nutrition, which means that how do we distinguish between the nutritive excess, you can say, among different classes of the society. The different classes of the society comprising of maybe you can say the higher class, the lower class, low income groups, high income groups, middle income groups, or you can say urban, rural, or within a family, you can say women, children, men, elderly. On the basis of this categorization, how does your nutrition stand? That is the social aspect of the nutrition. This also most of the times remains unchecked. The unfortunate part is that when we talk of nutrition, we just talk about the biochemical. We hardly look into the specific requirements of the different social groups that we just mentioned here. What are the nutrition? So this type of thinking regarding nutrition is altogether absent, and because of this we are not able to give proper supplements to our population. Because of this we are facing lot of health related problems, particularly food related problems in our communities, because we have never made such a kind of a distinction of food or nutrients, because food is always taken as a matter of taste or as a general health, but we have never categorically divided or seen our plate, our eating plate, as comprising of different nutrients, and how does it how can it be the same for the family comprising of the elderly also, children also, and the middle age groups also. Another aspect of nutrition science is looking at the eco nutrition aspect, and this is very interesting to see that uh, does it in any way contribute towards environmental sustainability? Is it sustainable? Will we be able to see that this particular nutrient is available to our coming generations also? So looking into the three aspects of the nutrition science, we have to make our arrangements. We have to see that we are able to feed our population in a sustainable manner. So in this, it is important to explore that what is sustainable nutrition and what is nutritional sustainability. The path is from moving towards sustainable nutrition, means growing enough so that enough food is available to the people are fed properly, nobody is hungry. That is sustainable nutrition. So we need to grow more. The population is growing. We need more agricultural lands. We need more food because we have to satiate the growing population. That is the sustainable nutrition, is producing enough food for increasing population. On the other hand, nutritional sustainability is that you look into the environment, economic, and the social aspect of the nutrition. So, will this be continuing for the generations? Are we in a position to see that the nutritional requirements of our society are meeting or are satisfying on the basis of the environmental, social, and economic aspects? That means the food, if you talk about it in the simple sense, that whether the food is affordable, if it is accessible, is it available to all, will it be there for coming generations also? So that will explain that nutritional sustainability. So what is the need today is that we have made enough progress, and we have made a lot of achievements towards achieving the sustainable nutrition. We have enough food to feed our population, but we have to now talk about the nutritional sustainability, so that no part and no population or no communities are suffering from any kind of nutritional deficiency, you can say. Otherwise, what is happening is that we are feeding the people, but then there are lack of nutrients because we have not been able to sustain the nutrients for a longer period of time. We have not been able to, you can say, retain the nutritive abilities or nutritive, you can say, features of different food crops, of different aquaculture species that once we had. So if we are not able to, so that will cover the environmental aspect, so environmentally, have we kept the habitat of these food crops intact, so they will be available in the times to come also? If it is not the case, that means in future we are devoiding our population of certain nutrients which may be available today but may not be available for the coming times. So in this we have to be, the topic has moved from requirements of the nutrition of today. It's very surprising that our food choices are being created, in the sense what I was referring to, that nutritional sustainability is compromised. The way agriculture is done today, the way we have lost our traditional food crops is, the way we have just moved on towards monocultures and eating and depending on only few species of fruits and vegetables. That means that in the long run, we will not be able to sustain our ecosystems in such a way that they will be giving us the nutritional sustainability. To give you an example, nowadays mango is coming. There are more than there were times when there were more than 1,000 species of mangoes in our country, but today you find only 9 or 10 species. Similarly, if you take the case of rice, we were the home to most indigenous species of rice in our country. We had more than 20,000 rice species once cultivated in our country, but today we have just reduced to less than 200 species of rice. So, with every species of, say, rice or say mango or say banana or potato, they have the different nutrients in them, different chemical components in them. So, when we lose a species, when we lose a particular species of a vegetable, we are also losing our biodiversity and our health. So today what is happening is that our food is getting multinationalized, industrialized, and chemicalized. Why do we say this? Because our food choices are largely becoming, you can say, cosmopolitan. They are uniform in most of the urban families. The you can say the most common types of foods are eaten, and the traditional the list is very long. The traditional vegetables, the traditional pickles, the traditional sharbats, all those things, they have just gone away. What is the consequences of this? We are devoiding our bodies of the different nutrients which are required, which are very, very necessary.
So what is the need today is that we have to reclaim our culinary legacy. Still in India we are lucky because we still have home cooked food, which is a luxury in many of the Western countries. So we are still at a better position, and we need to see our the ways of cooking which were practiced before, the ways of uh, finding different uses and finding different ways of cooking, that needs to be explored, so as to see that these varieties remain intact, and also we are able to feed our population with the nutrients which are already there in nature, which are already there in the biodiversity. Because the biodiversity, it has its own intelligent system of working with it. So there's it's required to move from sustainable food production to sustainable diets. What we are seeing in our metropolitan cities, the way our children are consuming, it is the food which is rich in salt, sugar, fats, and that is leading nowhere. That is zero calorie food, zero nutrients, and nothing. In these learners you must read there's a very good book written in 2013 by some random publisher somewhere, and it says that how we are hooked to these novel foods, you can say, how we the companies, they make us in this way that we get more and more attracted towards eating this fast food, convenient foods, which make cooking easy, but also which are the present day health related problems, the obesity in children what we are seeing, the lifestyle diseases what we are seeing, increase in the cases of the diabetes and hypertension among children and also among adults. That is because of the convenient foods that we are consuming today. So nutrition not just begins with uh, eating fruits, vegetables like that, but also we need to check that what we are eating, what snacking we are doing on. So I was just referring to what is sustainable diet. How we put sustainability everywhere. Sustainable diet is diet, which has nutrients, of course, but which has a minimum environmental footprint, which has low environmental impact in terms of how it is grown, what kind of inputs are being given, how much of the chemicals if are used, and how it is transported, because we believe that local uh, products consumed there and then, relying on the locally grown fruits, vegetables, grains, that is of more significance and that contributes towards sustainable diet. So that is required not only for maintaining the nutritional security, but also for the healthy life, not just for the present, but for the future generations as well. So sustainable diet has a good balance of nutrients also, but on the other hand, it also has uh, a role in the biodiversity conservation also, because it looks into the fact that the food or the diet which is sustainable will have less ecological footprint, which will be affordable, accessible, and which will be nutritionally adequate, safe, and healthy for the people. Because this is a question mark today, what we are consuming on our plate. Because you remove the species from the less diverse your plate is, the less diverse your forms of eating, that means the less diversity is there in the uh, wild, or you can say the less biodiverse the ecosystems are. So the need today is to see that how we as an individual families can contribute towards sustainable diets which have longevity, which have sustainability, and which do not have much of the, and also they should contribute towards livelihood of the people. Because one of the important thing what we are noticing today in the face of uh, growth, you can say, that the type of dependence we are having towards these you can say cash crops and towards this two or three common species what we are eating and consuming, there's a there's a huge loss of livelihood to the people. For example, I just tell you, makhana is something which is popularly eaten during fast, and it is grown in the wetlands in the northern Himalayas. You can say whether because of the climate change and these things happening, the wetlands are being destroyed, and with that also, there is a loss of the livelihood of the people who collect these makans. And same is the case with throughout the coastal belts of India, where people's livelihoods depends upon the collection of the fishes and other aquatic organisms. So the diet has to be sustainable, not just looking into the nutritional aspect, but also this environmental aspect is very necessary. So we have to see what we are eating and whether it is sustainable or not. So my question is there any sustainable diet? Is it possible? That how do we ensure that means it has a less impact on natural resources, on water resources in terms of you can say over irrigation, on soil in terms of land degradation, organic fertilizers, pesticides should be used instead of relying too much on the chemical inputs because they lead to cancers of various kinds. Also, inclusion of social, economic, and environmental component. Just now I mentioned that how socially the livelihoods of the people, the women, the feminization in the agricultural fields, what we are seeing today. Economically, the diet is sustainable when it is affordable for everybody. So it has to be economically feasible. And environmental components, food security and sustainable diet, it comes in hand in hand, that the people, uh, there should not be any question mark regarding the food insecurity when we make too much of you and cry about the organic food and so on and so forth. So when we propagate that this is a sustainable diet and it should be followed across all the sections and among all the income groups in a country, that means there should be food security must not come in the way. And minimizing food wastage, most of the food items which we see in the hypermarkets and in the store outsides, they mention about the date of expiry, they mention about the nutrients which are there in them, they mention about the different components and other things, but ever they mention about the upcycling and recycling of the food, whatever it is, if it is not used and consumed after that, how it has to be disposed of. So sustainable diet is also one of the important factor you can say about the food wastage, because a diet cannot be sustainable if it results into a lot of wastage of the food. If the shelf life is less, or if it is not possible to recycle it, upcycle it, then it is of no waste. So we should also see that the diets and the food, they are also must lead towards minimization of the food wastage, you can say. So there is an intricate connection between food, nutrition, and nature. It is quite evident. We have grown in the lap of nature. We were consuming raw fruits and raw materials and raw things from the nature before we entered into the agricultural era. But today we are trying to lose that biodiversity rich foods that we have in our this thing. So I just mentioned just now that if your plate is missing, or if your plate is less diverse, if you're consuming only two three things, that means that is lost in the wild also, that is not there, because enough we have lost. I was just referring to the case of mango. It has, the species have disappeared, many species of rice disappeared, many species of this thing banana disappeared. So we must recognize this fact, and you must be finding it very interesting that why the names of the pulses, it says that uh, chicken pea, pigeon pea, horse gram. These are the English names of the different pulses that we find, not the scientific names, but it clearly indicates that the Britishers were not aware of the use of these pulses, and most of them were used as feed for animals. But we know our legacy. We know how sustainably we cook and how sustainably we not only preserve the nutritive abilities of the crops, but also maintain that it is there in the wilderness also intact. So we have to establish that connection again with the nature, and we can do it because we are still at a better place in India, where we still rely and we still enjoy the home cooked food. So food diversity is linked to biological diversity, as we were just mentioning before, that it is linked because take the case of crops, the grains, the fruits, vegetables, aquaculture, because our food today is not just what we are reaping for the commercial benefits, but it also has leaves, seeds, fruits, vegetables, different parts. You go to any traditional kitchen, you go some years back, you will find that we have use of different crops, and for different purposes, for different seasons, we have different kinds of foods across the country. Need is to revive that. Need is to see that biodiversity protection is essential, not just for the ecological per se, but it is also important for the food security, for our nutrition, for our, of course, medicinal purposes. The biodiversity is important, but here I would just like to highlight that in our biodiversity we have a lot of nutrients, we have a lot of things. We need not eat the prescribed ones, that this is good in this, and this contains vitamins, and this contains calcium, and this contains iron. The only thing which is required today is that making our foods, making our diet sustainable and full of biodiversity, you can say. Make your food, make your kitchen diverse. So we eat different types of foods, different types of, you can say, spices, and our nutrition requirements will be easily met. So documenting nutrition value is also very important. I was just mentioning the different varieties of fruits and rices also have different nutrients. So the need is to protection. Why we were saying just now is that since the same crop with the different species has different nutritional requirements, so why don't we document this? So also documentation of the data for wild foods, cultivars, systematically it should be documented, seen, scientifically tested, and maintained. And this is possible only if we pay attention and if we promote the you can say the market for these different varieties. That is all possible only then. And also it is important to see that nutrition and livelihood are related to each other, because you know, it is generally believed that high income and low income, if we compare, we believe that low income groups of the people generally they don't have food, they don't have nutrition, they fall sick. And on the other hand, the high income societies, they have proper nutritious diet. However, most of the times it is not true, because people living in the uh, you can say low income group societies, they have more access towards the fresh vegetables and fruits as compared to the people who are living in high end societies, where they are purchasing only from the supermarkets, where the entry of the normal sabji walas is denied particularly. So here I just in brief I will tell you that what are food deserts. So there are food deserts now coming up in USA, where food is available, food is cheaper, people are eating, but it is a desert in that sense that there is no nutrition, you can say cycling of the nutrition they are taking place. So this is the state of affairs when we develop economically. So our economic development is linked to, it seems, our poor health, our obesity, lack of nutrients in our food, nutritional deficiency diseases. So the type of food we are eating has a correlation with our living. And also the nutrition affects the livelihood of the people in mountainous regions, in the plain regions, in the coastal regions, because what we are consuming is directly or indirectly coming up from the people only. So, and I was just referring to what would be happening in future. You must be knowing about nutrigenomics. That means individually we are different. So, what impact do the nutrients have on the genes of the person, and how genes of the person react to the different types of the foods what we are eating. So in the times to come, it is believed that with the industrial economy going and the lifestyle economy coming, where happiness of the person is more important, there will be personalized, you can say, food products depending upon your genes. In a way you can say that depending upon your age, depending upon the work you do, depending upon your requirements, depending upon your age group, you will be given the personalized food items being available in the market. So this is happening because of the emergence of nutrigenomics, which tries to relate nutrition with the genes of the person. So there's a very, very interesting studies going on which say that apple may not be, it may be rich in iron, but it not be suitable for the iron deficiency for all the people across the world. So this will be helpful by the genes of that person. There will be personal health tracking devices because Korea is doing wonderful in this. Even we can do it because Korea has a long tradition of agriculture, and they are now moving on towards having such type of innovative means of growing, and different types of maintaining habitats and different types of ecosystems so as to keep this food diversity intact, so they are able to cater to their population in a personalized, customized manner. And we should not forget that if we talk about sustainability and sustainable development goals, SDG 2, that is zero hunger, it talks about specifically that end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. So, nutrition is an important aspect for not just SDG 2, but it is also related with other SDGs, because SDG 1, poverty, we discussed that how nutrition and poverty are related to each other. Similarly, SDG 3 is about health and well-being. So our health is directly proportional and directly related to the nutrition and nutritious diet what we are having. So similarly, gender equality, because it is possible only when we are able to provide nutrition and nutrition filled diet to both the sexes in our communities. Similarly, education, because children miss out of children because they do not have good food, they are falling sick, they're not going to schools. So education, the goals of education can also be met with the help of nutrition. So this is actually, you can say that nutrition is an input for SDGs also, and it is an outcome of SDGs also when the SDGs are met. So there are different nutritional deficiency diseases. You must be knowing about vitamin and mineral deficiency diseases. Vitamin D deficiency is most common in India, in spite of the fact that we are sun worshippers. Sunlight here is very, very bare for several months of the year, but in spite of the fact, we have vitamin D deficiency very common, calcium deficiency, iron deficiency. This is most common here. Protein deficiency diseases are found in children having stunted growth, having hair problems, skin problems, and less of immunity. So these are some of the common nutritional deficiency diseases, and we know that because of poor nutrition in our diets, because of maybe consuming more but less nutritious food, leads to hypertension, because of salt intake, heart diseases, cholesterol, osteoporosis happens generally When we have low calcium and low vitamin D, bone fragility is more. Cancers rising, many cases of cancer rising because of lifestyle based diseases, obesity, and so on and so forth. Similarly, maternal health and nutrition, child health and nutrition, very, very common issues because uh, many women, rural women, they suffer from anemia. It's very common, iron deficiency, and uh, features generally has this deficiency, so it continues. So you cannot think of bridging the gap between the intergenerational deficiency diseases unless and until the mothers are well fed, given proper nutrition, and then uh, since beginning, the child should get the nutritious food, because about a billion children in India below 5 years of age, they die, they have stunted growth, they have lot of problems because of the nutrition and because of the lack of nutrition in their foods. Milk is not available, green vegetables are being not eaten, women are not fed properly, they are the least and the last eaters in the family, they are not looking after themselves. So it results into poor health of theirs, poor health of the children, and ultimately the poor health of the family and the society and a country as a whole. So we need to address these sectoral issues individually when we talk about the nutrition. And in view of this, the government has taken several steps. You must be knowing about the midday scheme, which was introduced so as to provide good, nutritious food to the children at schools, so that this is a motivation for them to come to school also, and also at the early age, they are fed properly. Then ICDS scheme for child development, this also aims to provide nutritious food to the children. RGSE's Rajiv Gandhi scheme for adolescent girls, particularly to provide them zinc and iron and all these type of supplements at the growing years. Similarly, national iodine deficiency disorders, national iron plus initiatives, weekly iron and folic acid. So these are some of the initiatives which have been taken by the government. But what we believe, that these initiatives are mostly uh, uh, addressing the issues after the problem has occurred, in the sense that when we have the populations which are devoid of nutrition. For the early stages, it should be taken care that everybody, every stakeholder has a role in it, not just the farmers, you can say, but also the companies, the regulators, the government bodies. Everybody has a role towards giving a kind of a momentum towards nutrition and nutritious food, and giving importance to the nutritional health, because health is important, but how nutritional health is important means, growing is fine, but how well do you grow? You do not fall sick, you contribute in a positive manner towards the society, and productively we are contributing in our individual tasks, in our jobs, in our workplaces. That is also very important. So whether it's a farmer, a worker, a woman, mm, uh, everybody has a right to good food, nutritious food. That is very important. With this, I end. Thank you so much. We can now take discussion.
Let us